Let me ask you something. Have you ever felt like you're doing everything right, yet still something feels off? You're showing up, putting in the work, checking off the boxes, but deep down there's an emptiness, a void, like you're living but not truly alive. That, my friend, is the absence of purpose. Purpose isn't just a motivational buzzword. Purpose is the ignition to your engine. It's the compass for your direction. It's the fuel that sustains you through storms, setbacks, and struggles. Without it, success feels hollow. With it, even failure feels meaningful. So let's talk about why purpose is not just a nice thing to have, but the key to ultimate fulfillment. Absolutely. Here's a 700-word expansion of the key point. Purpose gives your life direction, written with depth, clarity, and emotional power in the style you're after, including a short yet impactful example. Purpose is what transforms existence into a journey. It's not just about living, it's about living towards something. When you wake up with a purpose, the fog lifts. There's a clarity in your thoughts, a fire in your spirit, and a focus in your steps. Without it, you drift. You may stay busy filling your calendar, checking your phone, running from one obligation to another, but busyness is not progress, it's just motion. It's just noise without melody. A person without purpose is like a ship without a rudder, easily pushed around by every wave, every opinion, every trend. You're reactive instead of proactive. You exist, but you don't move forward. You get tired, but you don't get anywhere. That's the trap so many fall into. Waking up, going to work, clocking in, clocking out, living for the weekend, paying the bills, and silently asking yourself, is this it? But here's the thing, when you discover your purpose, when you decide to live on purpose, that question disappears. You no longer feel the need to escape your days because your days begin to matter. You don't hit snooze 10 times in the morning because you're no longer dragging yourself through life. You're being pulled by something greater. Purpose gives your energy a destination. Think about that. It means every ounce of strength, every drop of sweat, every second of time is building something meaningful. You stop wasting time trying to be everything to everyone. You stop chasing things that don't feed your soul. Purpose doesn't just guide your actions, it filters your decisions. It gives your yes power and your no peace. When you lack direction, every road looks tempting. You jump from job to job, idea to idea, relationship to relationship, hoping something sticks, hoping something finally feels right. But when you have purpose, you don't need to try everything to know what fits. You know what you're here for. That certainty becomes your compass. Let me give you a quick example. Imagine a young man named David. For years, David bounced from job to job, construction, retail, delivery driver, even selling things online. Nothing felt right. He worked hard, but he was constantly frustrated, unmotivated, and honestly, a little bitter. He thought success was about finding the right opportunity, but no opportunity seemed to click. One day, after a conversation with an old mentor, David was challenged to stop asking what he wanted to do and instead ask, why am I here? It shifted everything. He sat down, reflected, and remembered that as a teenager, he used to tutor kids at the local community center. He loved watching them light up when something finally made sense. He felt useful. He felt alive. That was the moment he realized his purpose was to teach and guide. He wasn't meant to just work, he was meant to impact. He went back to school, got certified, and became a coach, an educator. The same David who once dragged himself out of bed now wakes up at 5 a.m. with excitement. Same hours, same effort, but now he's moving forward. His energy has a destination. See, purpose didn't make David's life easier, it made it clearer. And clarity brings direction. When you know where you're going, you don't get distracted by detours. You don't chase every shiny object or get discouraged by setbacks. Instead, you learn, you adapt, but you keep moving forward. Direction gives you momentum that lasts. And let's be honest, the journey of life is hard enough already. But when you're wandering without a map, everything feels heavier. When you're uncertain of your why, even the smallest obstacle becomes a mountain. But with purpose, those same obstacles become stepping stones. You may still fall, but you fall forward. You may still get tired, but you don't stop. Purpose is not some magical feeling you stumble upon. It's a decision. It's a commitment to live intentionally, to stop floating through life and start steering it. The moment you align your actions with your deeper why, you create alignment. And when your life is in alignment, fulfillment follows naturally. So ask yourself, what is guiding your steps? Are you chasing comfort or are you chasing calling? Are you moving with intention or are you just running in circles? Because once you find your purpose, once you commit to walking in it, your direction becomes undeniable. And with direction, life doesn't just pass by, it becomes a mission, a journey, a calling worth pursuing every single day. Would you like similar deep explanations for the other key points too? Life doesn't play fair. It doesn't ask for your permission to throw obstacles in your way. It will test your patience, your strength, your belief, and your endurance. That's not a possibility, it's a guarantee. Everyone gets hit. Everyone faces storms, but not everyone keeps standing. The difference between those who get knocked down and stay down and those who rise again and again lies in one thing: purpose. Purpose is the fire in your soul that doesn't let you quit when everything in you wants to. When you're just chasing money or fame or validation, you'll find yourself running out of gas the moment things get uncomfortable. When the checks slow down, when the crowd stops cheering, when the likes stop rolling in, your drive disappears. Because those things were never designed to sustain you. They were temporary. But purpose is permanent. Purpose is powerful. Purpose gives pain a reason. It gives the struggle a story. When you're connected to purpose, you stop asking, why is this happening to me? And you start saying, this is happening for me. See, when you know your purpose, the setbacks don't break you, they build you. You can lose everything and still get up. You can be tired, broke, misunderstood, and still keep pressing forward. Why? Because purpose gives you a why so deep that no how can defeat you. When you're rooted in something meaningful, you stop quitting every time it gets tough. You start fighting for what you believe in. You start growing through what you go through. Let's be real, some days will knock the wind out of you. The business deal falls through. The relationship you invested in falls apart. You face rejection after rejection. On days like that, it's easy to think about giving up. It's easy to start believing that maybe you weren't cut out for this. But purpose steps in like a voice in the dark and says, keep going. There's more for you. This pain is part of the process. Let me share a simple but powerful example. There was a young woman named Elena who dreamed of opening her own bakery. She didn't just want to sell cakes. Her purpose was deeper. As a child, her grandmother used to bake with her, and those were the happiest moments of her life. When her grandmother passed, baking became her therapy. Her dream wasn't about money. It was about creating a space where others could experience that same joy, that same love. She saved every dollar, took night classes, worked long shifts, and finally opened her shop. But just a year in, disaster struck. A storm flooded her bakery, ruining all her equipment. Insurance didn't cover everything. Friends told her to let it go, to take the loss and move on. She cried, she doubted, but then she remembered why she started. She rolled up her sleeves, sold cookies from home, and even taught online baking classes just to stay afloat. It took time, but she rebuilt. Today, that bakery is thriving, not just because she had talent, but because she had purpose. And her purpose gave her the resilience to rise when everything told her to stay down. See, that's what purpose does. It anchors you. When the winds of life blow hard, you don't get tossed around aimlessly. You're grounded. Purpose says, this is hard, but it's not the end. This is tough, but you were built for this. It turns breakdowns into breakthroughs. It makes quitting not an option because you're superhuman, but because you're committed to something bigger than your comfort. Purpose takes you from surviving to thriving, even in the middle of adversity. It keeps you centered when the world around you is shaking. It tells you that every challenge has a lesson, every delay has a reason, and every failure has value. And that's the secret. Resilient people don't have fewer problems, they have stronger purpose. So when life knocks you down, and it will, don't ask if it's worth it, ask if it's aligned with your purpose. Because if it is, you don't stop, you don't shrink, you rise. You dig deeper, you grow stronger. In the end, it's not your circumstances that determine your future, it's your commitment to your purpose. Purpose will make you bleed, but it'll never leave you broken. Purpose might test your limits, but it'll reveal your strength. And once you discover that kind of inner fire, you become unstoppable, not because life got easier, but because you got stronger. And that strength, that resilience, that's what turns a simple life into a significant one. When you have purpose, even the most ordinary tasks take on extraordinary meaning. It's not just about what you're doing anymore, it's about why you're doing it. Purpose has the power to transform your entire approach to life. It doesn't matter whether you're sweeping the floor, driving a bus, teaching a class, or leading a company. When purpose is at the center, everything becomes sacred, everything becomes meaningful. The job might be simple, but the spirit behind it becomes powerful. See, purpose turns work into worship. That doesn't mean it turns you religious, it means it turns your labor into something that matters, something that has soul, something that carries weight. When you operate with purpose, you stop seeing your daily work as a burden and start seeing it as a blessing. You start realizing that everything you do is an opportunity to serve, to grow, to make a difference. You might be clocking into the same job, but you're no longer the same person. That's the secret most people miss. They think fulfillment comes from changing their career, but often it's not the job that needs changing, it's the intention behind the job. Because when you move with purpose, your energy shifts, your attitude changes, you start paying attention to the details, you show up early, you stay focused, you go the extra mile, not because someone's watching, but because you're working from a place of vision, not just for a paycheck. Purpose gives your work heart. It gives your actions depth. It elevates the ordinary into the extra. You're no longer flipping burgers. You're feeding people. You're no longer cleaning rooms. You're creating peaceful spaces. You're not just fixing cars. You're helping someone get to work, take their kids to school, get back on the road of life. When you realize that your purpose connects to something bigger than the task itself, that's when your work becomes your worship. It becomes an offering, a contribution, a reflection of your values and your character. Let me give you a simple, powerful example. There was a janitor named Mr. Thompson who worked at a large school. Every day he arrived early, cleaned the halls, wiped the windows, picked up trash. To most people, it was just maintenance, but not to him. Mr. Thompson believed that his purpose was to create a clean, safe environment where students could learn and feel respected. And he didn't see himself as just a janitor. He saw himself as part of their growth, part of their success. He greeted every child by name. He encouraged them when they looked down. He swept the floors with pride because he knew those halls led to dreams. One day, a former student came back to visit. Now, a successful lawyer, he told the school staff that it was Mr. Thompson's daily encouragement, his smile, his words, his presence, that helped him believe in himself during some of the hardest days of his childhood. Not a teacher, not a principal, the janitor. Because his work came from purpose, not position. That's the power of living on purpose. You don't need a title to lead. You don't need a platform to influence. You don't need applause to make an impact. When purpose is alive in you, your presence becomes powerful. Everything you touch becomes significant because you're not just doing, you're becoming. And what you become through the process is more valuable than the results themselves. Purpose also changes how you handle challenges. When your work is just about the money, the moment stress hits, you crumble. The moment it gets hard, you start asking, why am I even doing this? But when you're driven by purpose, pain becomes part of the process. It's no longer something you avoid, it's something you learn from. Obstacles become opportunities, delays become lessons, setbacks become setups. You stop resenting the grind and start embracing it because you know it's shaping you into who you are meant to be. Purpose brings dignity to the daily. It turns repetition into refinement, and it makes you realize that no role is too small when it's done with great intention. That's why it's not about chasing a title, it's about chasing meaning. Because when your soul is in your work, the result is deeper than success, it's fulfillment. So wherever you are right now, whatever role you're in, don't underestimate the value of what you do. Don't overlook the opportunity in front of you. If you bring purpose into it, you won't just change the work, you'll change yourself, you'll grow, you'll inspire, and one day someone will look back and say, because of you, I didn't give up. And that's worship. That's legacy. That's the kind of life worth building. There's something powerful about a person who knows why they're here. A person with purpose doesn't just move differently, they shine. There's a glow about them, a fire in their eyes, a certainty in their steps, and that kind of clarity, it draws people in. See, when you're living on purpose, you don't have to chase attention. Attention finds you. You don't have to beg for support. Support shows up. Why? Because purpose speaks a language that the right people understand. It's magnetic. People are naturally attracted to someone who's living with conviction. Someone who isn't just drifting through life, but is anchored by meaning. When you live with purpose, you walk in alignment, and alignment attracts alignment. You'll start to notice that the right doors open, not because you forced them, but because you were ready when they did. Purpose doesn't make things easy, it makes things clear, and clarity breeds connection. When you know who you are and what you're about, you stop wasting time with people and paths that don't match that. You've probably experienced it before, even if you didn't realize it. Think about a time when you met someone who was deeply passionate about something. It didn't matter what it was. It could have been a teacher who lit up while talking about literature, or a musician lost in their sound, or an entrepreneur who believed in their mission so much it made you believe too. That's the effect of purpose. It makes people lean in. It creates gravity. You don't have to be loud or flashy, just real and committed. That energy speaks louder than any sales pitch ever could. When you move with purpose, it also becomes easier to recognize what's not for you, the distractions, the noise, the false opportunities. They don't stick because purpose acts like a filter. It helps you say no to the good so you can say yes to the great. It protects your time, your energy, your focus, and in doing so, it clears space for the right people and the right opportunities to walk into your life. Let me share a quick, powerful example. There was a young man named Isaiah who had a gift for speaking, but more than just talking, he had a passion for impacting lives. While most of his friends chased influencers, likes, and fast money, Isaiah stayed focused on his mission, helping young men in his community believe in themselves and build better futures. He started small, speaking in classrooms, volunteering at local youth centers, posting videos with just a handful of views. But he stayed consistent because he knew his purpose wasn't about being famous, it was about being faithful to his calling. Years passed. One day, a video of him mentoring a group of teens went viral, not because he planned it, but because someone else captured it and shared it. That video attracted a major nonprofit, then a media platform, then speaking invites from all over the country. He didn't chase those things, they came to him. Why? Because he walked in purpose. His purpose had been speaking long before anyone was listening, and when the time was right, the world finally heard him. That's what purpose does. It aligns you with people who see you, who believe in what you believe in, who want to build what you're building. The right tribe doesn't need convincing. They recognize your heart. They connect with your mission. And once you're connected to the right people, your capacity multiplies. You go further, faster. You grow stronger together. Purpose also places you in the right timing. Sometimes it feels like nothing's happening, like you're working in silence. But purpose is never idle. It's preparing you, maturing you, strengthening your foundation so that when opportunity comes, you're not just impressed by it, you're ready for it. That's the beauty of divine alignment. The right time, the right team, the right doors, they find you when you're walking in purpose. So if it feels like things are taking longer than they should, don't lose heart. Stay in your lane. Keep doing what you were called to do. Stay faithful to the vision even when nobody sees it. Because your consistency and purpose is sending out a signal. And the people it's meant to reach, they'll hear it. The opportunities that are meant for you, they'll show up not because you forced them, but because you became the kind of person they were looking for. Purpose doesn't just change the path, it changes the people on it with you. And when your purpose is clear, your connections become divine. Legacy isn't about buildings with your name on them. It's not about having 1 million followers or even $1 million. Legacy is about what you leave behind when you're no longer here. It's about the impact that echoes long after your voice has gone silent. It's about how your life influences someone else's, even someone you may never meet. And this kind of legacy, it begins and ends with purpose.c. Success is great, but it's personal. It's you hitting goals, stacking wins, collecting trophies. Fulfillment, though, runs deeper. It's what happens when you take that success and aim it towards something bigger than you. Purpose is the bridge between the two. Purpose is what turns your efforts into someone else's survival guide. It's what transforms your efforts into something eternal. When you live with purpose, you don't just add years to your life, you add meaning to your years. That's because purpose makes you think long term. It forces you to consider more than just your needs, your comfort, your applause. It stretches your perspective beyond the moment. It whispers, what are you building that will outlast you? And the people who walk in purpose, they live to answer that question. They know that real fulfillment comes when you pour your life into something that outlives your timeline. A person living with purpose is always planting seeds. They may not see the tree grow. They may never sit in its shade, but they plant anyway because they believe in legacy. Every word spoken, every act of service, every challenge endured, it all becomes part of the foundation for someone else's future. That's the ripple effect of purpose. It multiplies, it travels, it outlives. Think of someone like Katherine Johnson, the brilliant mathematician whose calculations helped NASA send astronauts into space. For years, her contributions were overlooked, her work buried in the background. But she didn't quit. She didn't work for applause. She worked from purpose. She knew her gifts mattered. She showed up with excellence even when the world didn't recognize her. And now, her name is spoken in classrooms. Her story is studied in schools. And her life has inspired a generation of women and young black girls to believe they too can do the impossible. That's legacy. And it didn't come from chasing status. It came from staying true to her calling. That's the lesson. Purpose isn't always loud. It's often quiet, behind the scenes, unnoticed by the crowds. But over time, it leaves a mark that fame can't replicate. It touches lives in ways money never could. The beautiful thing about purpose is that it doesn't require a title. You don't have to be famous or powerful to build a legacy. You just have to live with intention. A father raising his kids with love and discipline, he's building legacy. A teacher pouring wisdom into students who don't yet understand its value, she's building legacy. A neighbor showing up with kindness, a mentor investing time, a business owner uplifting the community. They're all building something bigger than themselves. That's the work of purpose. And here's what happens when you live like that. You ignite something in others. You inspire dreams you'll never see completed. You model a life that makes others want to rise higher. You don't just become successful, you become significant. And significance, that's the currency of legacy. People may forget what you did, but they'll never forget how you made them feel. They'll never forget the example you set. They'll pass that down. Purpose takes your ambition and turns it into impact. It forces you to think beyond the grind, beyond the paycheck, beyond the moment. It says, what can I build today that my grandchildren's children might benefit from? It says, how can I live now in a way that shapes what comes after me? And once you start living with that mindset, everything changes. The way you work, the way you lead, the way you serve, because it's no longer about just making it, it's about making it matter. So if you're searching for more than just success, don't look outside, look deeper. Ask yourself what you want to be remembered for. Ask yourself what kind of legacy you're building with your choices, your time, your energy. Because when purpose is your compass, you'll always head in the right direction, even if the world doesn't understand your path. And one day someone will walk further because of the road you paved. That's when you'll know you didn't just live, you left something behind. There's a kind of peace that can't be bought. You won't find it in the latest gadget, the luxury car, or the applause of a crowd. It's not about status. It's not about stacking accomplishments. It's about alignment. Real peace, the kind that allows you to lay your head on your pillow at night and feel whole, comes when you know you're walking in your purpose, when your daily actions reflect your deepest truth. That's when fulfillment begins to bloom. It's not something loud, it's not something flashy, it's quiet, but powerful. Because when you live on purpose, you stop playing the comparison game. You stop looking left and right trying to measure your life by someone else's highlight reel. You realize that you're not in a race with anyone else. You're on your own path. You have your own assignment. And that knowing frees you. It releases you from the pressure to be what you're not, to chase things that don't fulfill and to impress people who are never meant to understand you. You step into your lane. You own your calling. And that's when peace finds you. Purpose is the great equalizer. It doesn't matter where you start. If you're walking in purpose, you carry something priceless inside. A janitor working with purpose can have more joy than a CEO chasing validation. Because peace doesn't come from position, it comes from alignment. It comes from knowing that your time, your gifts, your energy are being used for something that matters. It's knowing that you're showing up for the right reasons. And when that happens, life becomes less about competition and more about contribution. You stop obsessing over how far ahead someone else is. You start focusing on how faithful you're being to what you've been given. That shift, that inward shift, is what calms the noise. It turns striving into serving. It turns pressure into passion. You become anchored not by circumstances, but by conviction. Take, for example, a woman named Sarah. She had a high-paying job in a big corporate office. She wore the right suits, drove the right car, and went to the right parties. On the outside, It looked like she had everything, but inside she felt empty. Every morning was a battle to get out of bed. Every meeting drained her, and though people envied her life, she felt like she was living someone else's dream, until one day she took a break and asked herself the deeper question, why am I here? She realized her true passion was helping underprivileged kids learn how to read. She had volunteered once at a community center and remembered feeling alive in a way she never had in the boardroom. So she made the leap. She left the corporate world behind and started a nonprofit focused on literacy programs. Her paycheck got smaller, but her peace grew tenfold. She wasn't working less. She was working with purpose, and that made all the difference. She wasn't trying to keep up anymore. She was trying to give back. And with that, the anxiety faded, the pressure lifted, her heart was full. That's the power of purpose. See, inner peace isn't about escaping responsibility. It's about embracing the right responsibility. It's about knowing that what you're doing lines up with who you are, that alignment, the harmony between your actions and your assignment is what unlocks peace. And once you find it, no amount of noise on the outside can disturb the quiet on the inside. So if you're searching for peace, don't run faster. Don't chase more. Slow down. Look inward. Ask yourself the question most people avoid. Am I living my purpose or just going through the motions? Because once you start walking in purpose, you'll find that the peace you were searching for out there was waiting for you inside all along. So here's the truth I want you to carry in your heart. The ultimate measure of your life will not be in how much you earned, but in how well you served the purpose you were born. Don't wait for permission. Don't wait for perfect timing. Your purpose is not in the distance, it's within you. Dig deep, reflect, reconnect, and decide that from this moment forward, you will live with intention, with conviction, and with purpose. Because once you find your why, everything else starts to fall into place. And that, my friend, is the path to ultimate fulfillment. Live on purpose, lead with purpose, and leave a legacy that echoes long after you're gone.